Hi, everyone. Great to see your names coming in. Feel free to chat us where you're coming in from. We'd love to know.
Yes, definitely.
Our panel is coming from very diverse locations too. Hey, Matt.
I'm going to go ahead and get us started because I know we have a lot of great information to share today. Welcome, everyone. I'm Eileen Coombs, the Community and Education Lead at Delegate Solutions, and also was the MC for today. We're really thrilled to have you all here. We do these about once a quarter, and I'm personally looking forward to this conversation around building your triple threat team. We have a really great lineup of panelists, and before I introduce them, I just want to remind all of our attendees today that if you have any questions throughout today's session, I highly encourage you to throw them into the Q&A function of Zoom, and I will monitor those and make sure we get those questions to our panelists. And of course, if you're not muted currently, please make sure that you are so we can all take in the great information today without any distraction. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our panelists. I'll begin with Shannon Waller. She is the Director and Teamwork Coach at Strategic Coach. She is the creator of the Entrepreneurial Team Program, co-authored the best-selling book, Unique Ability 2.0, which I think I actually have on my bookshelf behind me right now, is the author of the Team Success Handbook, and more recently, Multiplication by Subtraction. We also have Mackenzie Lyons with us. She is the Senior Client-Facing Associate at Delegate Solutions, supporting entrepreneurs. They work to make their visions a reality. She also facilitates the Elevation Quarter course, which teaches entrepreneurs and their teams the discipline, art, and science of effective delegation practices. And we have Alec Broadfoot. He is the CEO and visionary at Vision Spark, which helps mid-market companies in hiring training, key leader searches, behavioral interviews, and personality assessments. Alec is a successful entrepreneur and business owner who adds value to companies by helping them make critical hiring decisions with significant bottom line impact. And then we have a special guest with us today, Chad Johnson. Chad is an associate coach at Strategic Coach. He is a third generation entrepreneur who sees business as a tool for having an extraordinary life and rich relationships. And I love that. So welcome, everyone. As you can see, we have a talented group of panelists, and I'm looking forward to hearing more on how to build a triple threat team. And I will turn it over to Shannon.
And real quickly, Shannon, before you get on, just a couple housekeeping things. Eileen, can you make sure the chat is available? I think the chat function's turned off, and just a quick reminder to record this for those that couldn't make it. So yeah, sorry, Shannon, go ahead, take it away.
No, and last thing is Emily has had to send some of her delegates because she wasn't feeling well today, but she sends her best, and we'll make sure we'll do her proud. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Eileen and Mackenzie and Katrina and Chad and Alec. Thrilled to be with you all. This is so exciting. Thank you very much for joining us. So we're talking about who, not how, and this is as you said, and we've done a number of these now, and super happy to have the in real life Chad to tell us how this works. And we're going to talk about some very specific versions of who, not how, which I'm very excited to drill into that specific. So this is the book that inspired it all, Who, Not How. If you want to know more, get some additional resources, go to whonothow.com. And the whole premise that I'm going to walk through now is that we all have some really powerful ideas. We have a bigger, better version of the future. Chad, I loved your description of it. But the problem is, as soon as we engage with that future vision, which I should go this way for you, immediately we try to figure out, how am I going to do that? The problem is, if you're not already doing it, it's a very steep learning curve. If you already knew how to do it, you would have done it. And so it becomes very de-energizing. It's sort of exhausting to think about doing all the how. So think of some big new project you take on, you're like say you're going to do something internet-wise. Like, oh my gosh, I have to be an expert in SEO. I have to do an expert in buying lists. I need to be an expert in writing copy. And at that point, you're kind of like, that's kind of exhausting already. But instead, and what you're going to pick your own version, obviously. If you think, instead of how do I do it, if you think about who do I know that knows how to do it? So if you can do the next slide, yeah. So when you think about who's, there's so many very talented who's, and now because of our amazing global network, we have access to 5 billion people with cell phones. How cool is that? That's a lot of talent out there. And what's interesting is when you start to surround yourself with people who are brilliant at doing all the stuff that you're not, it frees you up to do what you're best at. And then they take care of the house, so that of the ones that you don't want to do. And here's the cool thing, that's actually how you get to your bigger and better result. If you were to do it all yourself, the dots don't connect. If you do the next slide, Eileen, I'm sorry, Mackenzie, you can't actually get there. Or if you do, it takes a long time, and it probably takes you off your game from what you actually should be doing. Because there are very few things, there are few, but very few, for which you are the right who. It's your area of expertise, it's your unique ability, it's your passion. And the more you're freed up to do that, the bigger impact you can have, the more of a difference you can make. And also, as Chad will attest in just a moment, the more fun you can have. You just said your location is Lexington, Kentucky, like today. Wait till you hear about his journey. It's really amazing. Normally you're closer to Oregon, which is really fun. So this is the essence of Who Not How, deceptively simple, but it actually elevates the idea of delegation. A lot of us, delegation feels like work, although I have to say, Eileen, Mackenzie, and Emily have textbooks on how to make delegation a lot more fun, a lot easier. Can't wait to look at her book, Let It Go, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But it's so powerful when you actually think, okay, I can find someone who's better at it than I am. Forget being just as good or even just a little bit less. What if I can find someone who excels in areas that I don't? Incredibly liberating thought, especially for entrepreneurs who tend to be rugged individualists. So I want to share with you the next idea in terms of specific who's that can make this a lot easier. So if anyone's familiar with EOS, you've heard the term visionary. Even if you haven't heard of EOS, probably familiar with the term visionary. EOS stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. And some of the language you're going to use ties into that. It's very incredibly complementary with Strategic Coach. So at some point as an entrepreneur, you're the innovator. You're the person who makes it up. And there are also innovators within companies too. So this is what is called the visionary. So, and the whole triad model, by the way, I have to huge thank you to Dave Logan, who wrote Tribal Leadership. This is the most productive, profitable way to structure teamwork. In case you want to know, highly recommend the book. I actually have a fabulous interview that he did with me. He was so articulate and just so clear on the model, but then I've customized it to tie into what we know about entrepreneurial teamwork. So you've got the make it up person. Then you need someone who does what we call making it real. So you have this really rough idea. It barely has scaffolding. This person's going to build a few more things around it. They're going to make sure the walls stay up. They're going to make sure that it's, that things aren't going to fall over in the wind. They're going to make sure there's some stability to it. So they're going to put, or some flesh on the bones is another way to talk about it. So the make it real person is what we used to call them project manager. Problem is, we learned if you advertise for a project manager, you get what we call a process manager. So we changed the name. So this is an innovation manager. They love to take your innovations, make them real, but guess what? Then they're kind of done. Problem is when they hang on to it, they need to pass it to the person, which we call a process or a focus manager, who's going to make it recur. And there are very different mindsets. There are very different skill sets. There are very different striving instincts for each of these roles, which is really kind of interesting. It's very important to find your complement, which is why we've got you here, Alec, to talk about all the different things you can put into actually finding the right one, which is so powerful. It's also an innovation manager at a high level is also called an integrator. That's another way to think about it, which is again, another EOS term. So the make it real people are usually what I see is missing. A lot of entrepreneurs they're the visionaries and they have a lot of focus managers, but sometimes they feel as though they don't have anyone to talk to. So that's a big danger. Or they don't actually realize that they themselves are deserving of their own focus manager in terms of their time and their activities and what they're going to be doing. Katrina is my brilliant strategic assistant. Actually, I use the term support partner because I need support and I need a partner. I want her managing me, not the other way around. So a really important role in this for most entrepreneurs is actually that they have a strategic assistant devoted to them. Not to anyone else in the company, but to them. And once you have, once you have this in place, it is a complete and total game changer. I cannot stress enough the transformative capabilities or transformative nature of having a devoted strategic assistant. So actually, I was talking about this today, Katrina, on our weekly planning call. So there are 6 pages from our last strategic planning meeting, which I don't run, Katrina does, of all of the projects for the last 5 weeks, all of the key projects for the next 4 to 5 weeks. I think it was up, I can't remember the number, Katrina, if it was 50 or 70, some insane number, 70 something things that I pulled off in the previous 5 weeks. I could never do that on my own. Now, if I just follow my calendar, I can, but I could never organize it ahead of time. I could never close the open files afterwards if it weren't for Katrina, who's my strategic assistant looking after me. But again, it's very much a support partner. It's very much an equal relationship in terms of capabilities. So this is actually my next book. And I'm so excited about this particular model because it solves a lot of problems that entrepreneurs have that they don't have words for, which is why I wrote the other 2 books too. But it solves a problem because like, oh my gosh, I've been just trying to work with one person, another person. In fact, when the 3 of you work together, and I've intentionally added this to my teamwork, where if I'm just working with Katrina, we'll bring in my colleague, Kathy Davis, right? She's the 3rd leg for certain projects. Eleanor is the 3rd leg for another project. So you can triad all over the place, right? But you can dramatically increase your productivity and your profitability when you do this. So we are now going to talk about how you put this into action. So my dear friend Chad, I'm very excited to see you, by the way. So why don't you talk about, you've had experience with and without these types of team members. So why don't you bring this to life for us? I'm curious.
Oh my gosh, Shannon, I get so excited hearing you speak. And I am so happy to be here with this panel because Alec, I know the great work you're doing. I know the great work that Mackenzie, you and your team are doing. And Shannon, your books, the 2 that you've written, have served as a major foundation in the great work that I've been able to partner with these other who's, as you've talked about, around this who, not how concept. And guys, the magic of, what we're talking about here is it's so powerful. It's so synergistic. I came into my entrepreneurial journey with no awareness of not only who, not how, but the concept of unique ability, which is such a powerful concept that we talk about here at Strategic Coach. And just realizing that I'd spent a lot of my time in life, in my entrepreneurial work life, trying to make my weaknesses strong, right? And we're so far beyond that. Most people on this call have been aware that, hey, there's a strengths-based, methodology for, hey, let's do what we're good at. Let's partner with others. I didn't understand that. When I came to coach, the paradigm shift that was so powerful for me and exciting for me was, as Shannon said, I can be extraordinarily good at a very few things. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I think I can be maybe one of the best in the world at a few things. And I believe everybody has that capability of being just the tip of the sword in those few things, but only if I find partners. So I came to my business with this, I'm going to get good at everything, because as an entrepreneur, a leader, an owner, I need to be organized. I need to be systematic. I need to be process driven. I need to be right. And I wanted it. And so I bought the book on how to be an organized leader and how to be a successful, right? And Shannon, you guys are all laughing because you're going, oh, good luck with that, Chad, right? Good luck with that. And so when all of a sudden I came to this understanding of who, not how, and I started to say, okay, Chad, what are you extraordinarily good at? And then in turn, what should you not be doing? Right? What should you be supporting? We like to say at Coach that unique ability can never happen in isolation. It just doesn't. It's not me as an island. I can't. And so all of a sudden I started to look at my life, my business with new lenses, right? And the lenses were, okay, Chad, you need some who's, and who are they going to be? And to be honest with you, at first, I didn't understand this kind of model that EOS talks about of a visionary, and as Shannon said so well, and an integrator, right? This 1-2 punch of a make it up, make it real, make it recur team. I was definitely clear that I could make stuff up. I was very clear that after that, often it fell flat on its face. And so much of my struggle and frustration as a business owner was in that awareness, right? It's like I was tripping over myself with great ideas, and then I would quickly make a mess of it. And some of them win, don't get me wrong, but the pace of execution and the simplicity, we say at Coach, you can't scale complexity. And that was what I was trying to do. So my own journey shifted when I went from, okay, wait a minute, I need to not, first of all, embrace the fact that I'm a leader, not a manager. I mean, I always thought, oh, I'm going to somehow become a good manager. To this day, I'm 52 years old, and I still believe I'm a very poor manager, but I can be an extraordinary leader. And that relationship awareness around, okay, I need some who's. Well, I came to the who finding through this executive assistant role because I came to coach, right? And they're sitting there, my coach is going, Chad, you need an EA. And I'm like, oh, I don't even think I can keep that person busy. I mean, we hear it all the time. I was coaching 4 workshops last week, bunch of amazing entrepreneurs. And there's, part of my job is to encourage them to get that EA, to get that right person that's just literally going to support them. But I was that guy that's like, I don't think I can get them busy. I tell my clients now, hey, look, if you can keep them 40% busy, get them. Because you guess what? The other 60 is going to take care of himself so fast you can't even see straight. In fact, you probably have to get an assistant for your assistant. But I say all that to say, I am on that third version of it because sometimes it takes a while to find that right who, right? But I'll tell you, the game change started to happen when all of a sudden I sat down, and I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but the way I found my EA to be extremely valuable was I wrote a list of 50 things I never wanted to do again. I was like, you know what? These things are not only am I incompetent or competent or maybe even slightly excellent, but they're not unique ability. I need to get free. And so today, Cheryl, my EA, runs my life. And I mean, the crossover between Cheryl and the businesses I run and the coaching I do and my family life and all of it is absolutely the most life-giving relationship. And I can't think, I mean, not only did she come in and take those 50 things and says, oh, I love this, right? These things that I hate. And you sit there, how can that be, right? But she literally was like, these things are candy for her. And she immediately created the processes, the systems, all the stuff I could never do in a million years at her level. And she made them all happen. And she makes them for 8 years. She makes them seamless and flawless and over again. So the other piece of that triad, I realized when I wasn't aware, when I became aware that I wasn't a manager and I didn't want to have a CFO, a COO, a CMO, that I was literally, that I'm trying to manage and keep on top of and make sure that they're being held accountable and they have a track to run on and they're trained and all this stuff. And all of a sudden EOS said, Chad, find an integrator. And that's somebody, again, who has this ability to take any idea, and if I make it up, they can immediately put it into action. They can immediately execute. They can immediately grasp it and go, oh, baby, give me this, and I will run with it and I will make it happen. And I'm going to give you a couple quick examples. I came to our business. We were doing like 3 million in revenue. I was growing very in a linear fashion, very frustrating growth, the traditional model of things. I didn't have an EA, I didn't have an integrator. And then I came to this awareness and I said, okay, I'm going to brought in this guy, Rick, my buddy, Rick. And I understood this integration relationship. And I said, I'm just going to have you, the whole team report to you. I'm going to give you my ideas. You're going to run. We saw our company go from 3 million to 6 million to 8 million, right? And all of a sudden I started to see these compounding gains. And with this incredible joy for me as the entrepreneur, because I'm sitting there going, God, there's so much I'm not having to do that I had to do in the past. And I'm staying in my lane. And then I come to 10X, right? And I started hanging around with all these people who are sitting there going, oh, wait, great, you're doubling. Why don't we 10X? And I had an idea that never in a million years would I have done it before, because I would have gone to that, how do I do this? How do I do this? And Shannon, you did such a brilliant job of laying out that who, not how, because instead I said, Guy, here's the vision. We're in, by the way, my business, we screen printed labels on glass bottles for food packers, wine bottles, craft beer bottles, cosmetics. So companies like Clinique, Estee Lauder, Coca-Cola, right? Or microbreweries like Stone Brewing, Sierra Nevada, whatever, wineries like Beringer Wine Estate, Chateau St. Jean, these types of places. And I'm sitting there going, okay, we're doing all this labeling. if I'm going to grow exponentially, what other opportunities could we serve our clients? And at Coach, we have this R Factor DOS, and they started telling me, right? And I said, okay, sat down with my integrator, and I said, Rick, I've got this crazy idea. We got to launch another company. It's going to be in the packaging space, and we're going to sell master cartons, corrugate, repack, and fulfillment to all these clients that we're just doing labeling for. It's going to be a whole new deal. It's going to require new facilities, new equipment, a lot of logistics, a lot of stuff, right? A lot of, how do you do this? And Rick got so excited because he's a make it real guy. And he wants to take stuff that is just an imaginary concept, and he wants to put, as you said, meat on the bones, right? He wants to get the facility and buy the equipment and source the team and write the SOPs, or, and so he got so excited that literally 4 days after we had our meeting, we announced at our industry trade show that we were doing this and we were going to offer these services, which was way massively fast, right? And it was unbelievable because I'm going to say this, the power of a visionary and an integrator and this trifecta, right? This team that you're talking about. Not only did we launch that company, we did 5 million in revenue first year one. Okay. It was profitable year one. Year two, we did 7.6 million. Year three, we did over 10.2 million. And I was still keeping my free days. Okay. I was still skiing with my family, with my children, right? We were still taking 6 weeks in the middle of winter to go to Squaw Valley, stay at the base of the mountain and pour into relationships and all the things that mattered. My team was thriving, right? Our clients were happy. When you look at the power of what can happen when you get this right, and Rick was on fire. He was doing what he was put on planet Earth to do, right? Loving it. The excitement of our team. Anyways, I get so excited about the magic of this because all of a sudden we're starting to see what I think every entrepreneur wants. We want to grow our businesses in a really powerful scaled way. And we want to do the work we're great at. And we want to see those around us loving what they do and empowered. And we want time to enjoy the benefits of all of it. Coach, we talk about 4 freedoms: freedom of time and money and relationship and purpose. And to me, those things all are found in this beautiful synergy, right? And that's why, I'm constantly pointing at Alec to my clients and people saying, hey, you got to get your integrator, go get a who finder, right? That helps you do this, right? And same thing, the team here and Emily and her team, what do you do in finding these right fit who's? It's the ultimate leverage point, not only for your business, but for your life, for your freedom, right? And so again, when they asked me to be on this call, I just sit there and go, man, anything I can ever do to help an entrepreneur get clear on the importance of this. It's simple. It's a simple construct, but its power is compounding throughout your organization, throughout your expansion of your own unique ability, throughout your ability to create value, for your ability to enjoy the journey and get the results, right? And so Shannon and Alec and team here, I don't know if there's more, direction or specifics around this you would want to hear from me. Shannon, you unmuted. What's on your heart?
First of all, that is so awesome to hear that actual super tangible story, which I didn't even know, just by the fact I know you. I didn't even know that, but it also, to your point, and how I think about it, keeps you out of trouble. It keeps you out of places where you have no business being. Whereas if you or I had tried to execute on that idea, it would not have gone very well. But you put Rick in there, and that was so his jam. That's his gift. That's his contribution, putting other people's unique abilities to work for a great purpose. That's what people are here for. And we can help do that as long as we know when we're the who and when we're not. So that whole idea of not only does it free you up to be your absolute best and most contributing self, it also keeps you out of trouble. Well, maybe I should just speak for myself. Keeps me out of trouble. Right.
You're so right. It's funny, Dan Sullivan, he's constantly saying, hey, as an entrepreneur, stay on your side of the line, right? Yeah. And for me, the freedom only comes when I stay on my side of the line, when I only make it up and I let the integrator role, make it real, and I let others recur, and then I let them come back to me with whatever piece, that next 30% is there. But yeah, there's an incredible freedom in it.
I love that. And freedom is really the name of the game. So, Alec, we've had some really powerful conversations about innovation managers. Katrina has posted the interview that we did, which was phenomenal. You actually have found a way to benchmark an innovation manager, which is incredible. That was your team's wonderful idea. So talk to us about integrators. Talk to us about that really key role in between you and the focus manager, strategic assistants, and how critical that is, because you are a brilliant who finder, and for this particular, for a lot of things, but especially for this role. So set us up. How does this work?
Yeah, thank you. One thing, I just a plug for Coach, and Chad is my coach at Strategic Coach, and since joining Coach, our sales have tripled. Like in 4 years, our sales have tripled, and it's all about having the right who's in place. And so my own journey, we help entrepreneurs become a self-multiplying company by helping them find the right leaders to take their company to the next level. And as Chad and Shannon were saying, like when you have to think how, you're limiting yourself. There is a limit to what you can do. But when you think who, it's limitless, right? And a quick story, we helped a company find an integrator. And I couldn't get a hold of the guy. The guy hired our candidates after our process, and I couldn't get a hold of this visionary. And the person that introduced us, I finally reached out to him and I said, hey, how's it going with let's say his name's Bob. How's it going with Bob? He's like, Alec, it's amazing. I said, I can't get a hold of the guy. He's like, he's traveling the world, Alec, because you put that integrator in place. That's why you can't get a hold of him. So it works. This stuff works. And then myself, because of my sales have grown and I've seen what my clients have done, I hired our very own integrator a year ago, July. And so last week I was down in Dallas, and I have a great assistant. I have a great integrator. I did not take my laptop. I did not have my email, my Vision Spark email on my phone. Okay. So these other owners were looking at me like, what? You don't have your laptop? You're not checking your email? And I was able to enjoy that conference, build relationships, have more ideas to grow my business because of that freedom. So let me tell you what I would say. I'm going to summarize the 6 non-negotiables that you want in your integrator or second in command. Okay. Number 1, they have to be a strategic thinker. So if they're like a hands-on learner, they learn by doing, you're going to be really frustrated with their progress. And as visionaries, we don't have a lot of patience, right? So you want to hire someone that's a really strategic thinker. They have a high mental acuity. They're a quick learner. They learn conceptually. The second one is organized and planful. So if they're coming across like they're really good at winging it, should be an alarm that they're probably not so organized and planful. So someone that loves a plan, sticks to the plan, can build a business plan, execute the plan, that's who you want. And then someone who's process oriented. So, we're creative as visionaries, we're flexible, we can move and adapt, but an integrator, you want someone who loves process, that can build playbooks, stick to them, make sure all that your team follows the process. The fourth one is they need to like people. So we've had this great resignation. People are leaving cultures because they're not people oriented. So you want an integrator that loves people and can help you build a company that has a great culture. Communication. I don't know about you, but this was a huge benefit when I hired John, my integrator. I realized, man, I don't have to communicate all the details. I don't have to think of the details. I don't have to communicate the details. No one's ever accused me of over communicating, and I don't have to fix that weakness, right? John can help me with that. So they have to be really good at communicating, and their unique ability has to be able to lead, manage, and coach other people, hold people accountable. They have to love to do that. Chad, you mentioned you realize you're not a great manager. I don't love holding people accountable. I don't love managing people. And so top integrators love to do that. That's their unique ability. And Shannon, go ahead. Shannon, you have a
Can I
question?
just jump in,
Yeah.
jump in because I'm looking at this and you probably see me laughing. I'm laughing because yes, I'm a strategic thinker. Yes, I like people. Good commuter most days, but I'm laughing out loud at organized and planful, process oriented. So not me, right? And I think a
Yeah.
lot of people think that, oh, well, if you just work hard enough, that it's
Mhm.
all an intellectual cognitive capability. And that's that's not the issue. I got those. But there's so much more to each of us. There's how we think and feel and strive and the mental the ways you have of measuring mental capabilities and how someone thinks off the charts with your achiever profile, but you use that as part of what's needed in the role because you can help people. You have the benchmarks, which I love more than anything, because for this type of role, you need this type of person. For that type of role, you need that type of person, and you've got it so delineated that, and you did that with me when you were kind enough to share that with me. It's like, oh yeah, no, this is not suited for you. Do that instead. I'm like, how did you know that? Because other people have never figured that out before, right? It was like the secret. So it's not that all of us can do these things. There are people on the planet who have these capabilities factory installed. And I think it's so important to appreciate that rather than thinking, well, anyone can do that. Because the truth is, they can't.
Mhm. Yeah, that's true. Like 5%, I would say 5% of individuals that we interview have all 6 of these traits. So 1 out of 20.
Wow.
Yep. Chad, you were going to say something.
I get so excited again around this as you're laying these. I haven't seen your 6. I know you do the magic now. I'm seeing a little of the backstage of what you do actually, and I can see why you're landing these right fit, right players, and can just validate what not only what you've laid out, but what Shannon was saying. I wanted to live in an organized world. I wanted to live in a process-driven world. I understood the importance of it. I had bought a company that was very full of tribal knowledge and folklore, which meant, hey, Mary's not here, so we don't know what to do, right? She's gone. And so there was chaos that was prohibiting our growth. And so I read all the books on how to be organized and process driven. In fact, every other coach I had said, hey, Chad, you need to go build great processes. I came to coach and they said, you will never make a good process, right? Your true follow through says, that's not you.
Mhm.
Find a who and set yourself free. Well, what's crazy is all that growth happened and it was very organized. It was very process oriented. And it was because of the who's, and they brought that capability. And so I can, as a visionary, I can live in a world that's far better than I could ever create. The one I can imagine can be real just because the strengths of these other who's bring it about. And so rather than spending a moment, oh, I need to be more organized or I need more process. Nope, that immediate partnership brings it. And it brings it automatically because these people, it comes hardwired. That's who they are.
Mhm.
They love it. They love it. Anyways, it's so good.
Yeah, thank you, Chad. Yeah, that's we did this exercise with my leadership team, and we had them put what they love to do and what they are, don't like, not good. And it was fascinating to me. Everything that they love to do and are good at were all my weaknesses. And I'm like, great leadership team right there. So Mackenzie, go ahead to the next slide. And I'm going to go super fast here. This is our process for finding integrators and second in commands. If you don't have a hiring process, make sure you put a process in place. Have your integrator put a process in place. So a couple quick points here. Number one, you want a target. If you don't have a target of who you're looking for, you're going to miss every time. So that's what our position maximizer step is. Take time to build that target. Fit is everything. Harvard did a study. They looked at experience, education, all that. It came down to fit as the number one success factor for long term. So those are a couple things on that. And I just want to end with this last quote. A players are free, right? So whether you're thinking about hiring Delegate as a strategic assistant team, or you're thinking about hiring an integrator, A players will pay for themselves. So all the recruiting costs, what you pay them, they're going to pay for themselves. Now, in some ways, I disagree with this because in my experience, they're not only free, but you will get 3 to 10 times what you pay them. So you're not going to even notice it on your books. As visionaries, we think, okay, I have to pay this person X. How am I going to fit that in? That means I have to take less. You hired the right person. You are not going to see that salary increase. Your profit margin and sales will increase. Your sales will increase because you're free to do more of what you're good at. And your profit margins will increase because you have someone that can execute the business plan.
Alec, can I just echo, as you're talking, it's so funny because one of the biggest, blocks for entrepreneurs, we understand investment, right? And somehow we get into this mindset that, team is an expense. And yes, I understand on our P&L and our balance sheet and income statement where people show up, but in all reality, just my own history and watching so many awesome strategic coach entrepreneurs and their journeys, they're exactly what you said. They're not only free. I remember going, okay, up to the time I came in to coach, my highest paid team member was $80,000 to $100,000 team member. And I remember going, hey, you know what? This integrator is going to be a bigger deal for me because I want it all. And I remember coming in, okay, first time, okay, I'm going to get a $150,000 team member, right? And then I remember bringing in my first $200,000 team member and then $250,000 team member. And every single one of them, I mean, my own personal income during this journey, I mean, it went up like 18x, right? They never showed up. They never showed up except for on the right side of the income statement. It was just all upside. And so you're right. I mean, not that you're going to ever be foolish in thinking, oh, you can just throw money at people and it's always going to win. We have to watch our investment, be intentional, get the right who's, put them in the right places, turn them, get that alignment, make sure it's all right. But when it's right, it is, I agree with you. It's not free. It's how we grow. It's how we all win together. Anyways, just love the math on this.
Awesome. So good, Chad. And that's why I love Coach, because you have people like Chad and Shannon that can just, there's shots in the arm, they can encourage you. So I'm going to turn it over to Mackenzie. And Chad mentioned that he'd put together a list of 50 things he never wanted to do again for his assistant. And Delegate, this is what they do. They do those 50 things day in and day out, and they love to do that. So without further ado, Mackenzie.
Yes, so I am a who, and I absolutely am obsessed with this talk and this conversation. And this is really the third part of that teamwork triad that Shannon had shared earlier, the power of a great strategic assistant. And you are seeing it living in real life right this minute. So our work is unstoppable in this team of three because we're making the work or the projects or the tasks that you never want to do reoccur. That means once you visionaries make it up, you rely on the integrator or the second person in command to make it real and bring it to life. And then the last piece for any self-managing company is handed over to that strategic assistant to make the ideas and initiatives repeat with ease, right? So sometimes maybe the visionary and integrator has no idea it's even happening because you've handed it over and they're completing it and doing it. So I want to share some secrets. Shh, don't tell, Emily's not here. So I'm going to share some secrets for you about how to get this resource going and out. And just so you know, we've been doing this for 15 years. So we really do have some great tips and tricks for you. So these are the things that you want to be looking for in a mix of. So the best assistants have that innate ability and desire to help others. They're excited about helping others. You're going to hear them say that. They also probably want to be in the backstage. They want to help you. And that attribute becomes the secret weapon because they're protecting you and they're keeping your time for you only. They're the true gatekeeper. And that's really what we desire to do. The next, they're driven by this efficiency. We really do thrive on it. And they take your best ideas that have been set up for success by you and the integrator, and then we supercharge them, we streamline them. Sometimes we use automatations, or we just bring a different perspective to it. Have you thought of XYZ? But we are wired to execute. So it's extremely important because you're the visionary and you ideate. So make sure that you're aware that that will come up. There is an execution and ideation. You need to be very clear, visionaries. Hey, I'm going to just brainstorm and give you all the ideas. These are the ones that are important for you to execute on. We get those a lot. Number three, you really want somebody that can think for themselves. You want the attribute of let me try. That energy is going to protect you from the endless decision fatigue that I know you all experience daily. And that when you have that assistant in that role, it's going to exhaust you even more. So let them say the words, let me try it. and let them take that on so that you're not having to make even more decisions. And this brings me to Colby. So before you hire an assistant, make sure you know your Colby. I think that's extremely important for any entrepreneur, and definitely visionaries, to really know that. And then they have a test that compares A to A. Entrepreneurs, love you, but you are high quick starts and low fact finders. And then we're usually the exact opposite. We're usually high fact finders and low quick starts. So we're the reverse of you. So make sure that you have the conversations early with your assistant and often to say, hey, listen, I just want you to go ahead and start doing this. You don't have to be meticulous about every little detail, because we will hyper focus on that. And so number 5 is having that proactive self-starter, right? So you really want to build in on how they can be doing the things kind of without all of your information. Little bonus tip here. Our types of companies are dynamic, they're living, they're breathing entities, typically without a lot of rules and always a lot of change. So make sure that great strategic assistant will be comfortable in this environment and show the possibility to manage multiple competing priorities, timelines, and projects with ease. Shannon, I was laughing when you were talking about your however many projects you've had in the last couple of weeks. I was like, oh my goodness, yeah, Katrina's on it. I know she is.
She's a goddess. Can I jump in here for a sec, because you've made some such critical points that I think a lot of people don't appreciate. There are personality types that are naturally supportive, and I'm not one of those. I'm like the driver, the influencer, those sorts of things. And I finally clued in about 10 years ago that I actually need someone to support, who actually care about me as a human being and support what I'm up to. And that is so nourishing, is the best word I have for it, but it's also an even pace. It's not my fast pace. Like it's a different capability, but so necessary. So the biggest hiring mistake I've seen is that people hire people like them, because across the table or Zoom, they're like, oh my gosh, we vibe on the same level. We're brainstorming. We're doing all these things. You're like, oh my gosh, I just found a friend. And you just didn't find a really great support person, right? So it's so critical. So it's and our whole unique ability concept, Chad, is very much, my unique ability is different than yours. And if you appreciate your own, you're also going to appreciate other people who are different than you. But these things are so cool. And I really love the let me try independent thinker, 100% initiating fact finder follow through. And I love the proactive self-starter and working without a lot of rules, because even if there are a lot of rules, we change them frequently, right?
Yeah.
So they're kind of like, they're good today. So phenomenal description of a great strategic assistant. I love this.
Yes. And Shannon, I was laughing when you were saying that, because I'm definitely the helper. I'm definitely the servant. I definitely will obviously go way above and beyond at all times. And so it's one thing that I love about working for Delegate, though, is I can be the helper and be the servant. Yeah. And they get that. That's why I'm here.
Well, and you know what's interesting, what I learned from my first wonderful strategic assistant, Nicole, is that she's very particular about who she will support. You actually have to rate. You have to be someone that you, Mackenzie, want to support. So you don't give that to everybody just for the heck of it. Like, you have standards. Does that make sense? Like, when someone chooses to support you, it means something. You can feel like you're a really good human on the planet doing important work, because they're discretionary about with whom they'll do that. So
that's my unique ability too, is who and where am I going to put my thing? So yeah, I 100% am on board with that, Shannon. So the next step is, once you have the strategic support assistant, or the strategic assistant or support partner in place, then here are the 5 best practices that we teach. And Alec has done this course with us, so he's heard me say this before, but number 1 is always delegate the end result. We need to know what success looks like in your eyes so that we can get there. Okay. So sometimes just knowing what your vision is and then let us try it and go for it, we usually surprise our clients and get at them there. Number 2 is that feedback. So delegation is not the singular experience. And I know that you've had this experience. So you have to commit to giving and receiving feedback, because it makes you a stronger delegator and it helps your who become more in sync with you and your vision and your wants and your needs. Number 3, start small, build that confidence. Okay. So focus on compartmentalizing the large or maybe the more complex tasks and projects and build your own confidence. Always start with repeatables. Have the low-hanging fruit delegations and grab the small wins. Even if it only saved you 5 minutes, that was today. Next time it's going to save you 10, and then 20, and then an hour. So just keep building your confidence around that. Number 4 is one of my favorites. Get comfortable with 80%. We're going for progress, not perfection. So they need to think about the 80-20. So if they do it 80% the very first time that they attempt it, is that good enough the very first time? And then we always recommend using a strategic coach impact filter to see how to get that percentage up and up and up. 80-20 also means the visionary or entrepreneur is doing it 80% of, or sorry, they're doing 20% of the work and we're doing 80%. Sometimes it's a volley, right? I do 20, you do 10. And then we go back and forth until maybe there's just a few tweaks and special touches that need to happen before the project is complete. And number 5 is commit to the boring stuff. I know it's so hard, but you have to commit to it because it really does make the backbone of what you deliver and how you deliver it in an effective, unique way. And it creates scale in your company. And I know that Chad has seen this just from hearing him talk today. Remember, delegation, you're not charged with doing it or hammering out all those little details, okay? It's just being able to articulate that vision to your team.
And Mackenzie, I can do boring stuff if I have company.
Yes.
I'm not good at I don't, we've 3 different types of days in strategic coach: free days, focus days, and buffer days. And I have a rule: I do not buffer alone.
I like that rule. I don't buffer alone well either, actually. Eileen has put actually some great things into play at Delegate, so I don't have to buffer myself.
No, it's like if I've got somebody with me and I just have to be around fact finder, follow through energy, and all of a sudden I can think that way. It's very strange, but cool. But otherwise I'm off zigzagging in all my umpteen million directions. So I have a rule: I do not buffer alone. It's like, and sometimes Katrina will sit on screen with me while I do stuff. Or we'll do emails together or something like that. So I can commit to the boring stuff if I'm not left to my own devices because I'm way too distractible. So commit to the boring stuff with help with friends would be, that's something you can add to that. But it's so powerful, and I get it done because otherwise those are open files, which are very painful. Loose ends are hard especially for entrepreneurs too. So it's together we can get that stuff done.
No, I love that. So one more piece that you can, if you already have a strategic assistant in place, there are many ways that you can then support them. So here's a few things to note. Delegate offers this free community for the admins that you work with, as well as these growth groups to help them develop their skill set, right? Not everybody is perfect at everything. Nobody is perfect at everything. So that's great. And if you're in coach, we know that they already have a wonderful program for admins that they need to master that language and tools that you're being taught in the program so they can support you. So Eileen is sharing all those wonderful links with you to get you started. And just keep this image in mind. I know it's very wordy, but the first option is that transactional traditional VA where they're inexpensive. You pay them per hour, a low hourly rate. Sometimes you find them in the US, sometimes they're overseas. You are driving all the delegation with those. And then if we move all the way over to the right, that's the other extreme. That's your full-time in-house assistant. They're dedicated to you. They're on demand. You work together to find out how to clear your plate. Obviously, you employ them in-house, so that's all the benefits, all the overhead. You cover the turnover, the vacation, the talent issues, and obviously they have to live in your location because they're in-house. The middle ground between these two is what we do. We're virtual assistants. And we work in monthly retainers. We start at 25 hours a month, but we go all the way to full time. So we can do that. And we come with the backup transition process in place. We bring a system for delegation. We're very well versed in this. And we help you figure out what and how to delegate. So there's so many ways to get the help that you need. And it really depends on your budget, your need, and the level of involvement you want to have in the relationship with them. So to close out, the key to having this triple threat team is to having a fanatical commitment to the delegation. So delegation is the foundation for the limitless growth and must be present for triple threat team to thrive. It's the most important tool you can leverage to get your team and your company where you are today and your greatest vision of success. So if you're looking for more delegation, more direction with delegation, best practices, and how to delegate like a rock star, please check out Emily's new book, Let It Go. We also just got it on Audible too, if you're a driver. So Chad, maybe on all your travels, this would be a great time to listen to it. Eileen just threw it in the chat for you. And thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed talking with you. Eileen, back to you.
Mackenzie, you went over that slide, and it was a great slide on the three different types of assistants. And what I think is unique about Delegate is that when you guys are the Visionaries assistant, you have a team. It's a yin and yang type team. And so someone seems to always be available. You have this cadence, you get a lot done. You get a lot of bang for the buck. So I didn't want you to glance over that, because I think that is a very strong differentiator between Delegate and some of the other companies out there.
Yeah. And one of the things I love about Delegate is that you may only see my face or see Eileen's in my face or me and my partner, but we have this whole team behind us. So it's very typical on a call that I am messaging everyone in the company, hey, who has this experience in this area? Who can help me now? And then, so it's not just all my brain, it's 50 other people behind me's brains working together too. So that's one of the things I love about Delegate.
It's also keeping up with all the technology and all the best practices and all the systems. That's not something that Chad or me or Alec is ever going to do, to be honest. And so, and because you guys train companies on like how to use Asana and some of that other technology. So it's like this brain trust that you tap into, which is so powerful. And you have your programs for assistants, which is amazing. So assistants can keep getting better. Who doesn't love that? And I think, you have to commit to delegation, but if you're committed to freedom, this is a very easy decision. If you're committed to being trapped, sure, keep doing what you're doing. But if you're committed to freedom, this is such an easy decision, and it's an investment, not a cost, to what both of you were saying. So yes. Oh, what a great illustration. Thank you, Mackenzie. That was awesome.
Thank you, Alec. Thank you, Shannon.
That was wonderful. I enjoyed hearing everyone's components of that whole model. So it's always interesting. I just want to remind those who are in attendance, we have a few more minutes. So if there are questions, you're welcome to throw them into the Q&A, and I'd be happy to answer those. I had a question for Alec in talking about the integrator or second in command type of role. How many candidates do you typically have to vet in order to find that ideal?
Yeah, it's usually about 200 candidates. So it can vary based on geographic region and credentials, but anywhere between 100 to 450. And we're looking for the top 1% of that candidate pool. So
they really are like a needle in a haystack then.
Yes, they have to have the skills and the fit with the client, fit with the visionary. It is a needle in a haystack. And when you hire anybody in general, you don't want to hire from a small pool.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So how many candidates do they end up actually like looking at? Is it 2 or 3 or 5 or what? Yeah,
usually it's about 3 candidates.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
That's crazy to think about, taking it from that large number down to those few finalists. And do you find, are there common mistakes in hiring that position that people need to pay attention to?
Yeah, as I mentioned, hiring from a pool of one, that's most people hire, their candidate pool's one. It's really hard to make a decision. And Visionaries, we're all about how we feel, and we're nice, and it's usually a recipe for disaster. Putting a lot of emphasis on the resume. So resume is a marketing brochure. Almost half of resumes, or half of all resumes have outright lies on them, and 100% of resumes have embellishment. So you don't want to put a lot of credence on a resume when it's a two-dimensional document, usually written by someone other than the person you're interviewing. And I like what Chad said, like not hiring big enough. If you have 40% of what you think is a full-time, you'll definitely increase that. You'll definitely use their time. So I have found that companies will say, oh, I just need a part-time person, or I just need a fractional. When they get that fractional person, it's like, oh man, I don't need them just 1 day a week. I need them 2 days a week. And then it becomes more effective to have a full-time person. So those are a few hiring mistakes.
Just to add to that, Alec, I found exactly the same thing when I hired my very, 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 very first strategic assistant a million years ago.
Mhm.
And I took over a part-time person. So I shared a part-time person with another salesperson back then. And so then I'm like, oh, couldn't I, did I have enough work for her, all the things? And then I probably deliberated for about 10 days. I was very very not confident decision maker. And then I hired her, and after 2 weeks, I'm like, how soon can you go full time? The leverage. So ever since then, that was my personal learning experience. But as you can tell, it's ingrained in my cells at this point. It makes such a difference. So once you get the leverage, you're like, I don't want to give any of this back. And once you get that freedom, Chad, that you were saying, it's like all of a sudden there's just new oxygen in your system. So if that's someone to be a mini you, preferably better in the second in command role to do all the things you're not good at doing. If it is a strategic assistant, it's just it's so powerful. But that little taste of freedom is all you need to want more. Yeah, I love that.
We have another question I want to make sure to answer in the last couple of minutes. From Christina, were the stats Alex shared about 100 to 200 candidates and 3 interviews for integrator or strategic assistant?
Integrator. Right, Alec? Yeah.
So
but this kind of interesting, this might parlay over a little bit. You guys are always, well, I presume you're always, but you're looking for really great strategic assistants. Is it easier or harder to find those talented people out there?
Yeah, I mean, I would say those can be tricky as well. I mean, Delegate definitely has it down. I mean, their assistants are amazing. And we follow our own process. So my assistant, I use Delegate, and I grew into a person that I wanted here. And we followed our process, and contrasting with the person I hired 20 years ago as my assistant versus today, it's been absolutely amazing. Like I'm a big picture person. I like to see stuff on the calendar. So I asked my assistant, I said, hey, can I get a 90-day calendar to put on the wall so I can see the big stuff, travel and speaking gigs? Not only did she got it, she hung it up, she put all the stuff down on the calendar and just wowed me before I even told her what to do. So it's, those types of assistants are hard to come by, and I'm going to keep her for a long time. So, yeah.
We have one more question, and then I will probably close this out as we're running out of time. Again, I think for Alec, can you talk more into how to find the right integrator for more businesses?
Yeah, so number one, you want to create a really compelling position profile. So this needs to be a job posting that reads like no other. And so you'll know if you did this right, if you have candidates that say, you know what, I wasn't even looking, but my friend told me about this position and I read it. This is me. I want to work here. So that is an indication that you wrote the position profile correctly. Really be clear on what success looks like and how you're going to measure the performance. You want to advertise the position on strategic boards. So, if you're BMW or Intel, who are 2 big companies in Columbus, or BMW is now, Intel will be, they don't have any trouble with branding, right? But as an entrepreneur, it's a branding question, and we need to get the word out there. So don't be afraid to spend some marketing dollars on promoting your position. Cast a large net, and then interview well. Make sure you use an assessment that measures mental aptitudes. This is super important. You have to know how quickly they learn, their memory retention, vocabulary, because anyone can interview well, and you really need to dive deep and know how they think and how they're going to be the yin to your yang, as I like to say. So that was a really quick answer to a big question.
It was, and I know there's so much more to it, and your assessments have helped us so much in honing how we hire our strategic assistants at Delegate. So I want to put up that plug-in for Alex's company. We are out of time, so I do want to thank everyone for joining us today. We will make sure you're invited to our next Who Not How webinar, but feel free to reach out to any one of us You'll have our contact information in a follow-up email that will also include the tools we discussed, slides, and the recording from today's webinar. So thank you again for joining us, and have a fabulous week, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care. Great seeing
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone. Thanks for being here.